Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're all here joining us today on your Friday. So yeah, we tested it out to see, so we'll see if we continue to do Fridays, but I do appreciate you taking time out of your practices to be here. So today what I'm going to be talking to you about, we have a lot that we're going to be covering, but I'm just going to kind of do a brief overview of kind of what body typing is to really get you guys interested and excited about what you're going to be learning today. So, and I talk really fast, I'm going to try to go slow, so you can stop me or ask questions as we go through, so just bear with me. Okay, so biochemical individuality, what is it? Biochemical individuality is the concept that the nutritional and chemical makeup of each person is unique, and that the dietary and other needs therefore vary from person to person. Hence, no one diet is going to work for everyone. The belief that people have unique biochemical profiles based upon their own genetic structure, nutrition, and environment is nothing new, and it's been around for over 5,000 years. Body typing dates back all the way back to the Ayurvedic medicine days with all the different doshas. The Indian culture has been doing that for a while with it's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, I believe, for your taste of hot, cold, that type of thing. And then there's the more, there's several types. There's the ectomorph, endomorph, mesomorph, which is more for all the workout people are doing now, which actually started, that was a psychologist investigating serial killers, actually. He was looking at the different body types and found a correlation there. But it got turned into a lot of workout people were using it based on how they could build muscle. And then there's also the more American version, which is what I learned in school, which is like your apple shape, your pear shape, banana shape. And all these are great, but the problem is that all the three types didn't cover everyone. There was a missing link there. And they also didn't take into account, they didn't really dig into why that correlation was there. So more recent, in 1956, a professor and researcher at the University of Texas actually coined the phrase and concept biochemical individuality. He wrote a book called The Key to Understanding What Shapes Your Health. Now where Dr. Fuller came in is she made her footprint in body typing by using his findings and then taking it a step further by focusing on the digestive component and what digestive enzymes you were possibly lacking that was dictating some of the health concerns we were seeing in our patients. So Dr. Fuller will be here this afternoon, and she's going to kind of talk to you guys about how she created body typing and what led her there. But it's super fascinating how she did it. It was a lot of documentation, a lot of just watching trends until we finally were able to scientifically get it there using the DEXA machine, which you'll learn about, which measures the points. But a lot of what she figured out from the digestive standpoint was when she was doing colon hydrotherapy on people. And she saw correlations in people that were built a specific way, and she was seeing the same food in their stool basically over and over. Certain types she would see a lot of undigested vegetables and fruits. Others she could tell that there was lots of undigested protein in there. Some more, they were having a lot of greasy, oily stools, so that was more fat. So a lot of that correlation is where the digestive piece came from. And obviously with her being the pioneer in the enzyme world, that's where the enzyme development came into, figuring out, hey, well, if I give this person lipase when I do their colon cleaning, I don't see the fat in there. So that was kind of a way she did it. But again, she'll talk more on how she did that later on today. But with that being said, Dr. Fuller and we at Transformation believe that the one major reason why any body type suffers imbalance and weakness is due to an enzyme deficiency. And that is something we have perfected in the last 30 years and we still use today. So again, these imbalances are inherited and compounded through poor eating habits and stress on the system. So what is your body type? Have you ever noticed how people appear to be one of four basic shapes? Maybe it's the woman who seems to carry all of her weight in the lower area. So I like to use the analogy of the teller at the bank that you're talking to that looks really cute and petite up top, and when she turns around to go get your money, you're like, dang girl, she is packing down there, right? She's a lot wider. The top doesn't match the bottom. And that's a specific type. Or how about those women or men that they don't have to work out at all, and no matter what, their legs are just slamming. They have muscular toned legs, However, downside for them is they carry a lot of their weight up here. They have that barrel chest, or they tend to carry all their weight in their torso, and they look like a Clark Kent. I mean, they got these really broad shoulders, and they just tend to carry everything up here, and below it doesn't match, right? And then you have those people that have those really, really perky butts, and that's something we'll talk about, because to body type, you do have to look at butts quite a bit to figure out how people are. But there's those people that just have those really round, luscious bubble butts, and no matter what they do, they have them. They don't even have to do a single squat or anything, and they typically will carry their weight evenly all over. And then lastly, there are those types. Have you ever seen those people that they might be, that you see them, and all right, so let's say a high school reunion. You haven't seen them in 30 years, and they still look the same as they did in high school. Growing up, they probably looked really immature for their age. And even still, as they got older, they still have that little round baby face. They're typically kind of up and down, straight up and down, no curve, like a little, we call it like the little boy figure. Are y'all kind of seeing the trends, or like that, those men that, you know, have to wear the suspenders because they have no rear end to hold anything up? So these are things to be, you know, as we go through the body typing, you'll be like, okay, yeah, that relates to this person. But different body shapes come with different nutrition needs and different enzyme needs. And that's what all this has to do, all this talk about the different shapes has to do with our talk today. Okay, and again, the key word is different, guys, because there is no one diet for everyone. Now, the 4 types, what are they? Okay, so there are 4 body types. The first body type is your type 1. Known as your para, and their glands that control them are the parathyroid and thyroid gland. The second type is your estro or testro, or your type 2. They are controlled by the gonadal and hormone glands. The third type is your supra, which or your type 3, which stands for suprarenal or the adrenal gland. So they tend to have, when I say controlled by, they tend to have issues with these different glands in their body. And then lastly, the 4th type is the neuro. The neuro, or your type 4, gets its name from the neurological and endocrine system. These glands control the hormone production and other glands, and indirectly affect the nervous system for these individuals. So these are the 4 types that we will be learning about in our presentations today. So how do we look at it? How do we body type people? Well, when you all signed up today, you all received a questionnaire, and that's the first step. We have a questionnaire that looks at your food preferences, your personality traits, your different, your constitution, your health history, as well as how you are shaped. So that's the first thing to do. We start with a questionnaire that focuses on those things. We look at food preferences because things that people are drawn to, but may not, typically things you are drawn to are things that your body isn't absorbing well. That's why you're craving those things. And they also tend to be foods that make you feel the worst. A lot of us as healthcare practitioners, we are drawn, it's hard to fill out this questionnaire as someone who's really educated on health, because you already know to avoid it, so you've already gotten into the habit of not wanting it. But when you fill this out, guys, I want you to remember back before you knew anything about health. If you just had no health concerns whatsoever and you could eat whatever you wanted and it would make you look, feel amazing, what would it be? Okay? So, you know, again, obviously we know pizza and ice cream aren't ideal foods. However, I know for me, if I could eat cookie cake every day, I would do it, for sure. So things like that. So think like that. Don't think about how you eat now knowing what's good for you. Think about how you would eat if you had no health concerns whatsoever. And no matter what you put in your body or mouth, it helped you thrive, okay? So we look at your food preferences because that's a really important part. Because again, if we're not digesting, we're typically going to have issues with those foods we're not digesting well. Then we also look at the different personality similarities in each of the body types. During Dr. Fuller's years of practice, she used, through observation, she was able to kind of narrow down the specific personality traits of these individuals. And I don't know if we're still planning on it, but we've talked about using the personality assessment that we use for the hiring process, because believe it or not, guys, we body type everybody that we hire at Transformation, and their personality profiles generally always in line with their body type. It's crazy. So, you know, the personality assessments that you guys do, that I'm sure most of you have done before, Those are pretty, there's a lot of research behind the accuracy of those. So the fact that they correlate with what we've already been doing for 30-something years is really cool. Lastly, we look at, we also look at the health conditions because, again, remember I said the controlling glands that are going to have the most issues. Specific types have specific health issues, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. And then lastly, we look at a person's shape and how they carry their weight. Because again, based on your imbalances, that will determine where your body is going to hold and store body fat, as well as your ability to build and retain muscle. So, what we do with biochemical typing, definitely we want to support changes. The first thing we do is we work on diet modification. Once we determine their type, we look at the proper changes we need to make to better their health. As we have said, even the healthiest foods can be inflammatory and toxic for certain people. So there are specific foods that specific body types shouldn't have, even though they're technically labeled as good for you. Second is the enzyme protocol that is specific to food preferences and their enzyme deficiency. Then if there are issues in lifestyle, for example, the person, certain body types are going to be more prone to stress, whereas others are going to be more prone to anxiety, worry. So we look at those factors as well, and we might give you support products, or we just work on lifestyle habits to change to help get those in line. Because if you don't know by now, no matter what you do, if stress is still a really big problem for a lot of people, they're going to have a hard time getting better with any therapy you're trying to do with them. So, which one are you? So again, you all have the questionnaires in front of you, and you don't have to fill them out now. You won't need them until we get to the really fun hands-on part of today, because we will be bringing you guys up and body typing you, so you can kind of know what you are. But I want you, as we're going through this, kind of be thinking what you are, or maybe someone you know that's close to you can narrow down who they are. So we're going to get started with the type 1, or the para, okay? So, for a para, a meal for them is not complete without some type of carbohydrate. This group gravitates towards being a vegetarian, and they typically think it's healthier for them, but that's definitely not always the case. So, I'm going to go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. If you don't already know what my type is, which you probably don't because we just got started, I'm a type 1. I'm a para. And Suzanne had mentioned, think of a time when you felt your best and a time when you felt your worst. Well, a few years ago, in my quest, I'm always trying to lose weight, all these different things, and that's what I do, so I kind of should know. But in my quest on trying to find the best weight loss option, I really got on the bandwagon of I watched Fat, Sick, Nearly Dead, I watched Forks Over Knives, all those great vegetarian documentaries, and I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. I'm going to do it. I can eat as much as I want, and I'll still lose weight, according to Joel Fuhrman. So that's what I did for 6 months. I became a strict vegan, and I felt like crap. I did not lose weight. I gained 10 pounds, despite doing exercising pretty regularly and hard, and eating, all the vegetables, all this processed soy and grain and everything. But hey, it was vegetarian, it was vegan, so I was good. I did that for 6 months, and I did not feel better. My thyroid got worse. My weight went up, my energy was down, and my hair started falling out. And then I was like, okay, well, something's got to give. And then I found a new thing, and that's when I kind of got into understanding and reading more about paleo, and I switched to a paleo diet and immediately dropped 20 pounds. Not immediately, I mean, it took some time, but I lost weight. I was the leanest I had ever been in my entire life. Thinking back on that, I wish I could get it. I'll get there one day. Post-baby's been hard. But anyway, I was paleo, so that's high protein, low carb, moderate fat. Energy went up. I was able to work out much harder and longer. My sleep improved, and I was able to get off my thyroid. So that just shows you with doing those changes how much that can happen. And this was before I knew about enzymes even. This was just me changing my food. And then obviously I got on the enzymes, and that made things get even better. But again, for a para, a meal for us is not complete without some type of carbohydrate. If I could have any food, it would be carb, usually sweets. And you'll learn why, because paras, we love sweets. We have to have something sweet after every meal usually, which is why I have chocolate in my bag today, because I know there's not going to be anything sweet after lunch. So Our food preferences are breads, rice, pasta, potatoes, sugar, sweets, candy. You're probably thinking, well, I like that. Who doesn't? Pretty much all the body types like this, but pears, we specifically really like it. And we will typically choose that over anything else. So we are the ones that will skip dinner and just have dessert if we want to. Or if we have our meal in front of us, we're gonna eat our vegetables first and we'll eat the meat last if we get to it. We really aren't big meat people. We'll eat it, but if our meal is not complete without some type of carbohydrate on there. So what enzymes are we lacking? Obviously, if we crave carbs, we're lacking the proper enzymes to digest carbohydrates. This is why I sought out transformation, because what was I doing? Eating a lot of carb, really good carb, tons of veggies, but I would bloat a lot. It was a running joke at the office I was at, not to enter my office after lunch because of the smell, because of the gas. I had so much gas. And I mean, we can talk about gas, guys. Poop's how we assess people's health, so grow up. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, yeah, I was so gassy and bloated. I felt better because I had increased the protein, but again, I was really lacking the proper enzymes to break down all that carbohydrate. So pears, we are lacking polysaccharidic enzymes for the proper digestion of carbs. So that means we need to make sure we have an enzyme supplement that isn't just amylase. So many enzymes I'm seeing out there are just amylase, and I'm like, that's not enough. Plants have a lot more than just amylase in them. So we need cellulase for your fiber, invertase for your simple sugars, lactase for that milk sugar, macerase, another simple sugar, pectinase, etc. Because again, a lack of our carbohydrate enzymes is often what's going to result from eating too many foods that are high in carbohydrate, because we're taxing our pancreas to have to make more of that specific type. So again, back to that, why are too many carbohydrates a problem, and why do you think pears pears are usually going to be the ones that are coming in to see you with SIBO? What happens to carbohydrates when they don't digest? Does anybody know? They ferment. They ferment in your gut and create a really toxic gas that's going to continue to build up and just penetrate that intestinal lining until it finally breaks through. Okay? So again, pears, our carbs will ferment, and that's why we have a lot of the gas. So health concerns. Remember I told you that the para is controlled by the thyroid gland? Due to our lack of protein intake, we typically are going to have thyroid issues because we don't eat a lot of protein, which is necessary for the production of thyroxine. We tend to be drawn to foods that really don't assist our thyroid. We often have skin issues, so your pears are going to be the ones with the classic issues of like eczema. Eczema, for those of you that don't know, it's an inability to digest sugar. I deal with so many eczema cases, especially now because of all the pediatric patients I'm getting. It's sugar. They're not able to break down and digest sugar properly. And as you all know, we detox 4 ways. We detox through our gut, our lungs, our kidneys, and our skin. If you're seeing stuff through the skin, okay, that means that the other detox pathways aren't working, and that's the last place your body has to go to get rid of all this crap. So when people are coming to see you guys with skin issues, I hope you're working on their gut first and not just working on the topical aspect of it, okay? So other issues with paras, headaches are big here. When we can't metabolize glucose, our brain doesn't function properly, and that's where you're going to see a lot of the brain fog and headaches. Low blood pressure, which is going to be associated with that thyroid disorder because the parathyroid is not working properly. Paras are your classic ones that are going to have spouts of high energy and then drops. So we have a lot of trouble regulating our blood sugar. Fasting actually works really good for us because of that blood sugar control and preventing the insulin spikes. And this is just me talking personally. I do better with fasting. I hate it because paras, another unique thing, we're hungry when we wake up. I'm one that when I wake up, I want to eat. I mean, as soon as I wake up, I'm ready to eat. Whereas there's other body types, they can't even think about food for a few hours. And there's reasons for that. But paras, we are hungry when we wake up. We are ready to eat. When I have trouble figuring out a type, a lot of times that's one of the ways I can narrow down what they are is, do you want to eat when you wake up, or does it take you a little while before you get hungry? So that's a good question to ask to be an indicator. But we do have spouts of low energy and highs because we have blood sugar issues, and allergies are pretty common in this group. Body shape. We gain weight evenly all over. Our waist is small and defined, or maybe a little broader than our shoulders and hips, but we have that kind of, there's a curvature there. Whereas other body types like your neuros, which you'll learn about, they have no waist whatsoever. They are just straight up and down. So are your supras. When we get into measuring, we'll talk about this more, but the width of the clavicle and the hip bone is the exact same. So you measure, we'll go over how to measure, but the measurements are the exact same. We have a well-defined high perky buttock. And it's harder for us to maintain muscle mass. It's very hard to build muscle for us, no matter how much protein we eat. It's just hard. Our personality habits, we're very outgoing, we're extroverted, scattered and forgetful a lot of times. People person, definitely. We're very intuitive, witty. We eat as soon as we wake up. We enjoy eating and find it entertaining. Sometimes we'll forget to eat if caught up in a project, but that's about it. We typically don't miss meals, especially breakfast. So, do you know a para? Okay, who in here thinks they're a para based on what we just went over? Okay, you're an era.
Can you be more than one?
Huh?
Can you be more than one?
So you can have a secondary, but your primary, which we'll talk about, is based on your measurements. Because depending on the imbalances, things will change. There are a lot of people that are, let's say, a para, but their hormones have also gotten so out of whack from being imbalanced for so long, when you look at them, they look like an estro. But they're actually a para. Because when your hormones shift, you're going to store weight in different places that you normally wouldn't if you were imbalanced. So you can be more than one type, but the primary is what you treat. So like for me, I'm a primary para, secondary estro, but I eat and treat like a para because that is my primary, and that's because that's my bone structure. A lot of things will change on an individual. What never changes, no matter how much weight they gain or lose or what happens with their health, their bones don't move. So you can body type an infant if you can find a little pinpoint if you want to. Let's go ahead and move on to your type 2. Type 2s. So a meal for a type 2 is not complete without some type of fat. Okay? Whether the food is fried, a rich creamy dessert, some ethnic food like pizza, Italian, Mexican food, they love spice and they love flavor. They love the richness. They like their salad with blue cheese or a baked potato with butter or sour cream. So a good thing to help you narrow things down, so if you have someone in front of you and they say they like a baked potato, well, would you eat the baked potato plain, or does the baked potato have to have butter and sour cream on it? Are you eating the baked potato so you can have the butter and sour cream, or are you eating it for the potato? Okay? That's because what do you think a para is going to care about?
Butter and sour cream.
No. The para cares about the potato. The estro cares about the butter and the sour cream. The only reason they're even eating the potato is so they don't look like a weirdo just eating those two things by themselves, right? So, like for me, I eat a baked potato with just ketchup. The ketchup's sweet, okay? I don't care about any of that other stuff. Toast, I eat the toast for the bread. I don't butter it or anything like that. Whereas an estro, if they eat toast, now they like carbs, okay, but they have to have that fat with it. Same thing with the salad. Your estros are going to go for those creamier, rich dressings, whereas the paras will eat, ours. Everybody makes fun of me at work because I eat my salad with mustard. It's like a burger. It's really good. I'll put ketchup and mustard on my salads. That's how I eat it. Or I'll do like a vinaigrette. I'm not real big on those creamy dressings, whereas your estros, they're going to want that creamier, fattier dressing. Or they can do like the olive oil base too, because they like olive oil. So food preferences for an estro or testro. Definitely spicy, high fat things, ice cream, pizza, wine, dips, gravies, mashed potatoes with gravy, that type of thing. They love fried food. Their favorite desserts are going to be rich and creamy, like your ice cream or that really rich chocolate. They like, again, their stuff to be fried. They love Italian, Oriental, or Mexican cuisines. This is why they are referred to as the gonadal group, because fatty and rich foods stimulate the gonadal system, which creates a feeling of control and high energy. But as with other imbalances, the feeling is short-lived. So they feel really good for a minute and then they feel like crap. Enzyme deficiency lacking for an estro or testro, they are lacking lipolytic enzymes. Okay, so lipolytic or lipase, which is the enzyme your body has to have to break down fats. A lot of times estros have gallbladder issues or have had their gallbladders removed. So that's a pretty big indicator too. If they've had a cholecystectomy or if they are showing you issues with gallbladder, that's a signal that you might be talking to an estro. The health concerns for an estro. So reproductive system dysfunction. A lot of times your estros will have had hysterectomies at an early age or hit menopause early. Gallbladder stress and gallstones. Liver disorders for sure. High cholesterol and triglycerides. Hormonal imbalances, urinary problems, arthritis, PMS, hysterectomy, and prostate disorders for your males. Body shapes. They gain weight below the waist. So this is the bank teller I was talking about, is your type 2 or your estro. Men, you can tell the same too. So the men, and once you guys leave today, you're going to be looking at everybody because I still do it all the time. So the men, they carry their weight again around in this area, but their shoulders are sloped. Okay. So most men, you know, are like, I don't know if you can see mine, they'll kind of go out, but an estro, they're going to just almost be like a straight, like this, like they're going to literally slope down. And that's a way you can tell. The width of the clavicle is narrower than the width of the hip bone. So when we do the measuring, you guys are going to see this. They're probably the easiest to identify based on that. Well, them and the supras are easy. It's your paras and narrows that get tricky. They have the sloping shoulders and low slung buttocks. So when we're bringing you guys up here, when Dr. Fuller gets here, we'll start looking at your butts, and you'll see the difference in the shape of the butt and where the actual butt cheek starts. That's how you can kind of tell. So their personality traits. So what I really like about the personality traits, guys, is whenever you're doing your consultations with them, you'll get to a point where you can look at somebody when they walk in your door and you're going to know what type they are, and it helps you identify how you need to communicate with that person. Okay, so again, your paras, you're really outgoing, flamboyant people, so you can hug them. They're more welcoming, whereas like your neuros, when we'll get to that, or they're going to be more withdrawn and they're very shy, so you might not want to be so abrasive with them. Also, in how you're doing their assessments, that'll help too. But your estros and your testros, they're very nurturing. They're the ones that want to save the world. They are very caring, very organized, concerned for other people before they are concerned for themselves. They're the ones that are going to put the gas mask on you before they put it on themselves on the plane. They're very caring about other people. They tend to be more of your emotional eaters. And they are not big on breakfast, and usually not hungry for several hours after they wake. And why do y'all think that is? It's their gallbladder and liver. That's why they're not hungry. They feel nauseated in the morning. And this is why when you get them on an enzyme, it really helps with that. And it takes a lot of the stress off of the gallbladder because you're giving them that high lipase. So do you know an estro or testro? Okay, so what number one diet out there would be really bad for this person? Keto, okay? We actually did a trial in the office a few months ago. I was trying to get baby weight off, and we're always doing like these little things. And Suzanne, who if you haven't noticed, you will, she's an estro. She did it with us. We're like, we're just gonna try, because there are these practitioners out there that swear it works for everyone. And we're like, dang it, no it doesn't, you know? I think it's a great diet for the right person, and it can be very therapeutic and beneficial. So I'm not knocking it whatsoever, because I've seen it do really great things. I've also seen it do really bad things. Suzanne can attest that she felt horrible on it. Her energy was down. She couldn't complete her runs in the morning. She did lose some weight, but you're going to on keto because it's so much water weight that you're losing initially, honestly, at first is what's happening. It is muscle sparing, I'll give it that. But she did not feel good on it. Once we got her back on a higher protein with more balanced carbs and a lower fat intake, she felt much better. So this is why body typing is so important, guys, because it's going to help you narrow down what diet works well for those types. And like she said, well, the people that write the books on the diets are typically eating for their type, and that's why they feel so good on it, and it works for them, sure, but it's not going to work for everyone. So be thinking, who in here thinks they are an estro or testro? Okay, we have one, right? Well, you already know, yeah. Okay, so let's move on to our type 3. The type 3 is your supra. Now, a meal for a supra is not complete without some type of protein. These are going to be the people that, they love keto and they love paleo because all they'll do is eat meat. They'll eat, they're the ones that are thinking a 12-ounce steak is normal. They like meat and they like salty things. That's what they crave, and that's because their adrenals are what are suffering the most. And when you have adrenal fatigue, you have salt maintenance issues. These are the people that are going to salt their food before they even taste it. If they're eating chips, they're doing it for the salt, whereas the para, what is the para eating the chip for? For the carb. The super is eating it for the salt. Same thing with the nuts. My husband's a super, and he gets super PO'd when I buy the unsalted nuts because I get the blanched ones, and he hates it because he wants that salt. So that's your supers. Now, that's their food preferences. So any type of protein, they love it. Saltiness is what they crave. Now they do like sweets, so it's not that they don't like the other foods, but you can narrow them down by asking them. These are going to be your steak and potato people, okay, most of the time. There's a question on that questionnaire that Dr. Fuller says is a must-have, which is, if you could have any meal, what would it be? And that's really how we can figure things out too, because people will want certain things. So your supers are always going to have some type of meat on there, and they'll probably have some starch with it. They're not big vegetable eaters. Some of them are, but a lot of them are not really big vegetable eaters. They're going to go for the meat first. They actually make the best vegetarians. So Joel Furman, if you look at him, when we talk about body shapes, he is a supra. You can tell just by looking at him based on how his shoulders are. But their enzyme deficiency is proteolytic enzymes, which are your proteases for proper digestion of all the protein in your foods. Now, proteases are cool because they also work systemically on their own, and you'll know, as we get into our kits and the enzymes, we do have a protease formula all on its own, but our enzyme, our digestive formulas have protease in there, at least 50,000 units of activity to help with the breakdown of proteins in your food. But typically with a super, we have them take an additional one, which we'll talk about when we get into the protocols. The health concerns for a type 3 are going to be adrenal stress, kidney dysfunction, heart disease, high blood pressure, edema, because remember an inability to digest protein is going to make you hold fluid. Protein typically will help reduce body fluid, but when you aren't breaking it down, you're going to hold on to more water. GERD and acid reflux, they think it's normal. They think it's normal to belch after meals and to have gas. This is just life for them. That is not normal, guys. When you are having gas and belching and bloat every time you eat, something's up, okay? That's not a normal thing whatsoever. Constipation, does anyone know what actually the definition of constipation? How many bowel movements should you be having a day? 2 to 3. Every time after you eat. Specific body types are going to be more prone to constipation, and this type is more prone to it. Other things with them, they're going to have a lot of stiff joints, usually pain, and I think it's the left shoulder, right? So it's the left shoulder, right? Because that's where undigested protein will build up. So they have a lot of left shoulder pain, gout, and back problems. The way they are shaped, they gain weight in their upper body. So a really famous celebrity that's a super is Tina Turner. So her legs, if you notice, they're fabulous, but she always wears those dresses that don't hug her belly because she holds a lot of weight there. They gain weight in their upper body, stomach, back, and shoulders. The width of their clavicle is broader than the hip bone. They have a flat buttock with strong muscular legs. So these are the men that have to wear suspenders. And they overall have a greater muscle mass. So even though they actually, it's kind of funny, they don't have to eat a lot of protein to sustain muscle. So I know there's like a lot of MMA fighters and professional athletes that swear by vegetarian diets. They're supras, guys, and they already build muscle, so you're like, man, they don't need any protein. Look how lean they are. They don't have to work to build muscle. It's very easy for them. Whereas us poor paras and neuros, it's really hard. It sucks. It's really hard for us. So they have overall greater muscle mass. And their shoulders, I mean, I saw this guy the other day when I was getting my oil changed. He was like the definition. I mean, it was the most square shoulders I've ever seen. I mean, but their shoulders are very square, just like this. I mean, it's like looking at SpongeBob. Very square shoulders. So that's going to be your supras. Their personality habits, very stubborn and hard-headed. They're not concerned with details. They're focused more on the big picture. So again, in doing an assessment with a supra, you just better get to the point. You know, if you're just dancing circles around your point, you're going to lose them and they're not going to probably come back. You want to just get to the point. Here's what's wrong with you. Here's what you need to do. They enjoy being and having control. They like to be in charge. They do not eat breakfast either. They can these are the ones that will usually go all day without eating. So there's a lot of people that do like the 24-hour or 20-hour fasting windows. These are usually your supras because they can go all day. I could never do that, but they can go all day and just eat one meal a day and just be fine. And they prefer a large dinner. Let's see. Let me make sure there's no additional notes I want to remember now. Okay, so they really push themselves. They're going to be your drivers of conversation. They're usually not hungry in the mornings because of poor liver detoxification. And they tend to go all day without eating and save their meal for dinner because they usually don't like to stop. They don't like to really stop and mess with dinner. I mean, with eating. Because they're too driven and focused on other things. So just remember too, though, a lot of the reason they're not hungry is their liver, whereas your estros, it's usually their gallbladder. Okay, so do you know a supra? Who thinks they're a supra? No one? Okay. Last but not least is your type 4 or your neuro. This body type can be very complex or really simple. They don't eat much because everything tends to make them sick, or it's hard for them because they have many digestive challenges. This group gets its name from the neurological and endocrine systems that are out of balance, and for them a meal is not complete without some type of cereal or dairy. They love dairy, but it really, really messes with them, and they get really sick when they eat it typically. Many type 4s will drink milk until they are told they are allergic to it, and they tend to be lactose intolerant or dairy intolerant. Again, the food preferences for a type 4 are milk and dairy products, but they're also similar to paras, and they really like carbs, they like grains, they like cereals. These are your people that will usually eat cereal for dinner, or they like yogurt, they like all those types of things. Their enzyme deficiency is typically all digestive enzymes. They're just really low in everything, but the main ones they're lacking are lipase and lactase, which is why they have issues with dairy. Their health concerns. So the neurobody type often suffers from extreme food allergies. So your people that are coming in to see you with, like, you know, if you're using MRT or if you're using a Lysac, whatever you're using, and they are just off the charts full of food sensitivities, this is a signal you might be dealing with a neuro, or somebody that's just really lacking a lot of digestive enzymes, but usually it's going to be a neuro. They suffer from ongoing fatigue. They typically will go to several different doctors trying to figure out why they are sick or exhausted all the time, but they never can seem to get the right answer. They have multiple digestive issues and get sick often and have weakened immune systems. Some of this has to do with the fact that most type 4s not being breastfed by their mothers and were given formula instead, actually. These body types can have slight to very severe colon problems because of an inability to digest most foods. To counteract the stress put on the colon, they are often encouraged to increase their fiber intake. However, this actually makes matters much worse for them as they don't have enough cellulase to break down the cellulose. And it actually creates more inflammation for them. They are very sensitive to chemicals and the environment around them, as well as the foods they eat. And their food likes are often limited. They consider themselves sensitive to foods or pills. So those people, again, that if they're coming to see you and they're like, oh, I can't really ever tolerate anything, that's a sign you're dealing with a neuro. And that's why you'll see when we get to the protocols, they have a completely different protocol than the other types because they have to use our sensitive line starting out. So the way they are shaped, the shape of a neuro is similar to a para in that they gain weight evenly all over and tend to be very square shaped. They are either straight up and down and hyper or more soft and plump. So James, is it James Cordell? Is that his name? The guy that does like the singing show. What's his name? Yeah, James Cordell, he's a neuro. Jack Black is also a neuro. A lot of times celebrities are going to be, or there are actually quite a bit celebrity neuros because they are very shy and timid, but you got to think when you're acting, you're being someone else. So they're actually really good at that role. Many have the same body size as when they were teens. Their shape may be described as boyish or wiry and having baby fat. And they're generally very immature looking in their face and overall profile. They tend to mature slower than other types because their imbalances keep them from being developed enough to really be successful in sports, or it may cause them to reach puberty later than others. They're kind of known as, if you think back to school, I mean, not to be ugly, but they're kind of the nerdier ones, typically, because they're super analytical. They're very analytical, have to know every little detail, and they really like to study and learn. While their ability to gain weight evenly all over is there, the bone structure is similar to a para. One distinct difference is that the neuro does not have a perky butt and they have no waist. So when we bring some neuros up here, you'll see how they're going to be straight up and down, whereas a para, so our clavicle and our hip bones for a para and a neuro are both the same distance. Okay, so that's where it'll get tricky. The way you'll know is you'll have to look at their butt and then also how their waist is formed. That'll help you narrow it down. So the neuro personality habits, these are your more introverted people. They're not super outgoing. They are very reflective and logical thinkers. They don't make up their minds quickly. They have to have all the information in front of them before they can make a decision. Whereas a para, we're gonna jump and go for it. We don't really think about it. We're very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Spontaneous.
There you go, spontaneous. They're super analytical and detail oriented. Again, most neuros may have been classified as nerds in school because of their quality of the quality of their intelligence. They eat little bits of food throughout the day versus large meals because digestively they feel better that way, because remember, again, they're lacking several digestive enzymes, so eating a big meal is going to be uncomfortable for them. And sometimes they get sick if they eat too much. So, do you know a neuro? Does anyone in here think they're a neuro? Okay.
Except for the introverted part.
Yeah, and they aren't all introverted, but I mean, or that might be something you were originally and you've grown out of it, you know. Or if you're really imbalanced, you're not going to be as much of those things. The more imbalanced you are, the more the signs that we're talking about are going to show. So nutrition and enzyme therapy and how it plays in. So once you identify your patient's type, you can select the diet program that works best for them. One thing that all body types have in common, and as far as nutrition is concerned, is my kind of slogan is JERF, which is just eat real food. That's where everyone has to start. We've got to get people off of all this synthetic crap that isn't even real food anymore. And then get them going there. So all the diets for all the type, it's going to contain some, you know, in different amounts, but it will be proteins, it will be vegetables, it will be fats, it will be some complex carbs. And that's for all the types. It's just the amounts you give and what specific foods is where it will differ. So the type 1, so again, that's kind of the basic for all the types. Oh, that's it. I'm done. Okay, so yeah, which we have a lot more we're going to cover, but that's it just for our kind of introduction into body typing. Does anyone have any questions before we take our first break? Okay, so not a whole lot of people raised their hands, so based on what you saw and your question, has everyone completed their questionnaire? Based on what you saw, now that we've kind of gone through all the types, who thinks they're a para? I got 1, 2, 3. Sarah, you know. Tiana, okay. So yeah, like with the team, Tiana, Sarah, and I, we're all paras. Where are my estros? Okay. We got Suzanne, you think you're an estro? You think you're an estro? Okay. Kira. Supras. No supras in the room? That's rare. We usually at least have one. We'll see. What about neuro? Okay, just one? Tracy, you think you might be a neuro? I don't think you're a neuro, sister. Just looking at you, I don't think, but I could be wrong. Yeah. So, okay, cool. Well, we're going to go ahead and break. If no one has any questions, does anyone have, yes ma'am?
So when we're filling out the diet selection, you want us to think back, even if it's to 30 years ago,
Yep.
before we started figuring stuff out.
Yep, I want you to think about what food you were drawn to naturally. Yes ma'am.
I'm curious, when working with clients, is there a way for them, if you're doing it through online consultations, to guide them in how to accurately identify them?
Yes. So what I do, so we actually do virtual consultations all the time. So I have them complete the questionnaire and send it to me, and then I'll also have them take pictures of themselves. If we can't do like a Skype, where I can see them, I actually have them get in like workout clothes. And for women, you want them to be not in a sports bra because it'll throw you off. Because once we get into the measuring, you'll see where the bra hits. For most women, that's where their clavicle is. So you don't, because you got to feel for it. And when they're not there to feel, you can look at where their bra strap's hitting and line it up. And then I just have them kind of stand and point to their hips. Like it's the outer tip of the front of the hip is where you're going to. So when you're dealing with bigger people, it is harder. But we have calipers that we use to help. But even still, that's why the questionnaire is there as your backup plan. Because at the end of the day, guys, what it comes down to is you just want to get them in balance. And no matter what you do, if you're getting them on enzymes to help them digest all the things they're having trouble with, they're going to get more balanced that way. And then as they get more balanced, you'll start to see who they are. So like, for example, Suzanne was talking about her friend that's on that one program. When she first came in, we couldn't really tell, they were like body typer, and I couldn't because she was very round, and it was hard for me to do it with the calipers. And when paras, when we're really overweight, we just kind of get round. And so you can't tell if we have a perky butt because when you're overweight, well, everybody's got a perky butt, for the most part. So, but as she's lost weight, it's really funny because as she's lost weight, I can start to see now her waist coming back and also her butt. You can start to really see that perky butt coming through again. So as they start to get in balance, then you can kind of figure it out too, and things will start to correct themselves. But yeah, it's very easy to do it over the phone. Again, the questionnaire tells you a lot. Even though the bone measurements is what's definite, yep, that's the one. So you have that questionnaire on your flash drives, and it is a fillable version. It's supposed to be. If not, I can get you a fillable. And you can just email that to them and they can fill it out on there, or I just have people print it out and then they just scan the thing back to me. But I'll just have them take pictures too. And then when you're doing the pictures, guys, you want them to not only get from the front, but also you want them to stand to the side so you can see how their butt does. Okay? Okay. Anybody else? Good?
So during the break, you want them to fill out that questionnaire.
Yes, go ahead and fill out your questionnaire.
So we do have some questions, I believe, outside as well, so make sure you get some of that and fill that questionnaire out. It's going to come into play here very
Yeah, because next, after the break, we're going to get into the measuring, the hands-on part. So.